So we talk about not being able to categorize animals just as multicellular heterotrophs. We say it's not enough to classify. Why? Well, because there's also diploid and eukaryotic and more. So we talk about animals that are multicellular, which means that their bodies are made up of multiple cells. Animals differ from single-celled or unicell animals. There are some animals, such as sponges, the annelidas, the corals, and the hydras, that are sessile or fixed throughout much of the life cycle. But even these animals are motile during some stage of their development. Animals move using a variety of methods. Fish swim, birds fly, wolves run, snails slide, snakes slither. Some animals, such as the sea stars and slugs, move very slowly, while others, such as the cheetah and snailfish, move at an impressive clip. Movement enables animals to avoid predators, capture prey, and colonize new habitats. Most animals are diploid. The term diploid or diploid and haploid are used to describe how many copies of genetic material are contained within a cell. In a diploid cell, there are two full sets of the cell's genetic material. In a haploid cells, there's only one full set of the cell's genetic material. Most animals are made up of diploid cells. All animals are heterotrophs, which means they ingest plants and other organisms as a way to get their carbon, the energy that they need to live. All living things need carbon to support the basic process of life, such as growth and development and reproduction. And there's two ways an organism can get the carbon they need. One, by obtaining it from their environment in the form of carbon dioxide, or by feeding on other organisms and obtaining carbon from organic material that make up the organism. Organisms that contain carbon from their environment are called autotrophs. Green plants are an example of autotrophs. Animals, organisms such as animals that obtain carbon by ingesting other living organisms are called heterotrophs. Basically, these animals, they have to take in this preformed organic molecule that they can't construct from inorganic chemicals, and they do it through ingestion. Typically, animals are going to store the carbohydrate reserves as glycogen. They lack cell walls, and they have two types of tissue which are responsible for impulse conduction and movement, and those are the nervous and muscular tissues. Animals that reproduce sexually begin the life as a zygote or a fertilized egg. And this zygote will undergo a series of divisions to form a blastula. Remember, a blastula is a hollow sphere of cells. And then the blastula folds in on itself, forming a blastopore. Okay, and that will lead to a central tube that runs the length of the developing embryo. And this tube becomes a digestive tract, and it's formed in one of two ways. Either it's formed, the mouth is formed first, and that would be a protostome. And most invertebrates are a protostome. A deuterostome is an animal whose anus is formed from the blastopore, and the mouth would be formed second. All vertebrates are deuterostomes, including humans, too. The cells of most animals, the embryos, differentiate into three layers called germ layers. Sometimes we call this the germ cells or the triploblasty or triploblastic. The first one is the endoderm. The cells of the endoderm, which is the innermost germ layer, develop into the linings of digestive tract and respiratory system. And then the middle layer is a mesoderm, and that develops into the muscles, most of the circulatory, reproductive, and the excrete systems. Then we have the outermost layer, the ectoderm, and that's going to develop into the sense organs, nerves, and the outer layer of skin. Except for sponges, every kind of animal has some type of asymmetry. Simple animals have body parts that repeat around the center of the body, and that's referred to as radial symmetry. Bilateral symmetry, such as crayfish, have a single imaginary plane that can be divided into two equal halves, right and left, front, back, upper and lower. Bilateral organisms have right and left sides that are superficially mirror images of each other. The reflection, however, isn't perfect. You can observe this by looking at your own feet, and you'll see that one foot could be a little bit larger than the other. Our internal organs are not all symmetrically shaped or positioned either. However, the evolution of bilateral symmetry is important advancement. It opened the way for the development of directed motion, improved organs of sense, and eventually the enlarged and highly complex mammalian brain. While having radial symmetry is ideal for creatures that don't move, such as corals, sea anemones, or those that rely largely on water currents for transport, such as the jellyfish and so on, this body plan does not facilitate purposeful movement toward new habitats, sources of foods, mates, or even away from danger. The juvenile forms of sea anemones and corals are bilaterally symmetric for this very reason. After spawning, these tiny larvae will swim away from the parents until they find a new suitable location, where they attach themselves to a substrate and transform into the sessile adult that they become. First, bilaterally symmetry animals evolved from organisms that remain free-swimming as adults instead of settling down. In contrast, the sensory systems of the animals with radial symmetry are simple networks spread uniformly throughout the body with no single concentration of nerve cells. Then we go into cephalization. Cephalization, remember, are animals that have sense organs and nerve cells. Animals with bilateral symmetry usually display cephalization with a concentration of sense organs and nerve cells at the front end or the anterior of the body. They respond to the environment more quickly and in more complex ways than simpler animals can. Animals with bilateral symmetry usually move with an anterior end forward, so this comes in contact with the new parts of the environment first, so they can have a reaction faster. The colon. Many animals have a body cavity or colon, which is a fluid-filled space that lies between the digestive tract and the body wall. A colon is important because it provides a space in which internal organs can be suspended. This space allows organs to grow, develop, and protects them from body movements.